Oh boy,
Oh boy.
I think we're live. We're WEquil Live! WEquil Live with Dr. Lihong McPhail and me. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, so what would you like to talk about this morning?
Well, uh, I call you the child whisperer, and you've written.
Hmm?
Okay, keep going. Okay.
Oh, keep going. We had a technical difficulty, but the difficulty has been overcome. Go ahead.
I would like to discuss with you the article you wrote about parenting principles of persuasion.
Oh boy.
And you listed 5 principles of persuasion when it comes to parenting. And the first one is don't keep secrets.
Right.
Would you please elaborate on that?
Don't keep secrets. Well, I think we all have secrets, and some secrets we should keep. But there are a lot of things that we always shared with our daughters. Like especially when we would talk about parenting, they were there. They'd be in the room and we'd be discussing all the various complexities and challenges of whatever it is that we were doing. We would ask we'd ask them to weigh in on the discussions and help them or help us come up with answers, right? Like
Do you mean transparency? Do you mean
Yeah.
explain why? Do you mean give them all the information you know?
you're so great. I'm having so much fun with you. And I love your dress.
Thank you.
I love that dress. Is that the one I got you?
Yes. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I think that kids, if you let kids see a lot more of what's going on in terms of your thought process, then they can understand it better. And if they understand where you're coming from more, then it's a lot easier for them to at least understand why you have an opinion. Like why. When I started teaching Sume and Isla how to code, when they're very young, I would talk to them about my thought process. I'm like, oh wow, look, you can basically have an idea and then you can make it happen. And here, look, we can type in these characters, and all of a sudden, ta-da, we can make this thing happen. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask them, I'm like, should we do this every morning?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm thinking if we did this every day, then it'll be a lot easier for you to get better at it, and we can do it together. And so they would see that thought process because I was very open and transparent with them. And I would also tell them that sometimes if I had to discipline them, usually it was something that would happen quickly. It wasn't like you're grounded for a week. It was more like we might just sit down for 20 minutes and just talk about what they did wrong, in my opinion. But it wasn't like I didn't pretend that I knew everything. I would just tell them my thoughts about why I was frustrated, so they could see all that complexity. They could basically see what was happening inside my head.
So you elaborate the consequences, both short term and long term,
Yeah,
if they make certain decisions, and then let them decide if they want that consequences to play out.
yeah. Well, and this is the same thing that we're doing right now with our team. I think I try to act the same way with my friends.
Yeah.
I think I just try to be really transparent about what I'm thinking, because that way it's just easier for people to follow along and then maybe tell me where I'm missing something. right?
So it's no different from how you persuade, your colleagues.
Yeah, I think that this helps everybody. I think that
Yeah.
if you're really open in your thought process, then you're gonna be. It's just gonna be so much easier for people to follow that thought process and then come to the same conclusion. If your conclusion is correct,
Sure.
and if the conclusion is not correct, they can point it out. And our kids do that all the time. They're like, "Daddy, I hear what you're saying, but doesn't that mean we should be doing this?"
Right.
And then I'll go, "Good point." And that actually gets to another one of these principles, though, about being persuadable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's you show them your thought process, your decision making process. You you seek their input and buy in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that implies that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? If
That's
you show
right.
somebody your thought process, like yesterday, Wade Young was taking over WEquil Startups. I was thinking in my head, like, maybe he should spend a little bit more time helping us get the app off the ground before he goes full time and helping us to land more contracts on startups, right? But I didn't tell him that because I wasn't sure. So instead, I just asked him, I'm like, what do you think you should be doing right now? My thought process is this: I see that the app is so important, right? But at the same time, I know that we want to move toward getting startups off, right?
Can you use parenting examples?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same thing, though. Yeah. So, like with Isla. So, Isla's got these amazing WEquil wands, this whole business. And so I'll ask her, like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell these with neighbors? Do you want to have some friends over and have them do some more of these WEquil wands with you? Like, I'd ask her a lot of questions, but I'd share my thought process. I'd share my ideas. Be like, well, this looks like a great business. Like, this is really cool. Like, here's my, yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So you kind of the way you phrase it is don't keep secrets. So
Yeah.
Do you think some parents in certain situations will choose to say keep secrets because it may not be appropriate for the children to
I think
know
that that's the big
or-
difference. I think the big
or
difference is
if
that
they may think it's too
I think
complicated
that
for the
that's a lot
kids
of
to
it.
comprehend it, or they don't want to scare kids with some really atrocities in the world, kind of to protect them a little bit.
Yeah. I think that that's a lot of it. I think that there's fear that children are weaker because they're younger and they lack experience and they're fragile, and that if you tell them all the things that you're thinking, like imagine a parent that's not sure what to do, right? What about parents that aren't sure about cell phones, like when they should give a kid a cell phone, and they might say, "Oh, well, I need to go talk to my husband or wife. We're going to come up with a plan," and then we're going to come up to our kid and we're going to say, "Here's the deal with the cell phone," and then they're going to tell them what to do, and their kid didn't really get to have any part in that discussion oftentimes. And the reason why I think is that the parents are concerned because they're not sure what to do, because it's complicated. It's like we want them to have this technology, but we also know that there's all these risks, right? Like, who are they talking to, and are they going to become addicted, and what about their digital footprint? We talk about these things with our kids. We've been doing it right there with them, and they've been part of the discussion forever, right? And so they know how uncertain we are, how unsure we are about a lot of these things because they're complicated, and there's all these nuances. It's like, well, it depends on who the kid is and what's on the phone, and sometimes bad things happen. And then what's your philosophy on bad things? Like, is your goal to try to keep bad things from ever happening, or is the goal to have bad things happen while you're watching so that you can help them navigate it so that they have those experiences by the time that they leave the house? Like, that whole discussion, that ongoing discussion, they've been part of all those discussions. And we talked to them about what those dangers are. Like Isla upstairs, 9 years old, she knows what suicide means. She knows what self-harm means. She knows that those things seem to happen more with girls that have been using some of this technology without knowing what they're doing. Things like Instagram, right? So she knows those things because we've just been talking to her and being transparent with her about the risks of things like, cell phones or video games, addiction. She was on that TV show a week ago talking about gaming and addiction.
Okay, stick to
Yeah.
it.
Oh, she knows those things because we were transparent, because we weren't hiding the fact that kids get addicted to video games, right? We just are honest and open and transparent all the time. That's huge.
Do you see a downside to it?
Yeah. Kids find out that you don't know everything.
Right.
Kids find out you have to be vulnerable as a parent to do that. You have to
Sure.
be confident and tough because
So
yeah.
you show them your thought process, you give them all the information, but then you also are vulnerable to let them know, hey, this is the best decision, but I'm not always
I don't know
sure.
if it's the best decision.
But at least given what you know, here I think,
Sure, I can say, I think
yeah.
that you should do this. But when I first started showing Sume the stuff about cell phones and some of these social media platforms, I was giving her raw data and telling her that I was worried. I'm like, wow, this looks important and scary, and we need to learn more about this together. What are your opinions?
Right.
What do you think?
So you were acting like a mentor or a fellow traveler with a kid.
Fellow traveler is exactly
Because
it.
we don't always know what's best, and we don't always have all the information. And
We never. I would phrase it
and
so.
the
I would
world
say
is
we
so
never.
complicated.
The amount we know is like, it's so complicated.
Sure.
So, like, going into it and speaking like that and saying, I don't know what to do about cell phones or video games or virtual relationships or, later on it'll be, boyfriends and romantic relationships and there's just a lot of, there's so many things that we don't know, right?
Yeah.
And if we pretend that we do, kids are going to see right through it.
Yeah. It's 12 minutes into our live stream, and we have 4 more principles to cover. So the second principle
Okay.
is to respect.
Well, it's a really important one.
Yeah, is to respect their time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
would you
yeah.
like to elaborate on that and give them an
Sure.
example?
Yeah. Well, this first one though, this lays the groundwork for everything else. If you're not being transparent and honest and
Sure.
open, all these, that's actually Sume just wrote.
Yeah.
By being transparent, you build street cred and with your kids, and they're more likely to pay attention to what you say. That's the thing. All the other things, it's like they're not going to pay attention to what you say if you're acting like you know everything and you're not being open and honest, and they can't actually follow your thought process. Why would they pay attention to what you're saying about other things? How can you persuade? So there's a reason why we spent 10 minutes on it. But yeah, in terms of the next
Respect
principle,
their time.
yeah. So, how many times have you heard parents, with their kids, and they'll just randomly out of nowhere, no matter what their kid's doing, be like, Billy, come over here. Billy, come over here. You need to do this. And then Billy's like, It's like these parents have all this power. They're bigger, right? And they're in charge. Kids know it. And so parents will sometimes do this. They'll use this power in ways that they don't do with anybody else. Like, you don't go to work, and even if you have a subordinate, like you're managing people, you don't just immediately tell them what to do and make them drop everything. Because it's just not, it shows a lack of respect for other people's time. right?
Or you're talking about, say, kids who are not babies, right? They learned,
I'm talking about even when kids are babies.
but they say like with a toddler.
If they can't speak English, then that's different. But if they can speak English,
So when did you start to respect
as soon as they
their
started,
time?
as soon as they were able to speak English,
Okay.
you got like little Sume singing her songs in her room, la 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 la, 3 years old, and and then we would say, we're gonna eat soon, right? We wouldn't just say, we need to go right now. Come downstairs right now. Like, it'd be more like, hey, so we're gonna eat. We're gonna eat in a little bit, just letting you know. So she's got a chance to prepare mentally for getting done playing her with her toys, and then she can come and eat with us, right? Same thing with Isla and her amazing plan. That's what we're calling her plan, is the amazing plan. There's a backstory. Anyway, so she comes up with her own plan, right? She lists out how she wants to structure her time. Well, that's so helpful because she can prepare mentally for what her day is going to be like. This helps reduce anxiety. She has control. We put her in the driver's seat. And I think parents need to respect kids' time so that their kids don't have, anxiety over the uncertainty of whatever mom or dad or whoever is going to demand that they do from one moment to the next.
So what if kids don't respect the parents' time?
Well, that's a problem. And I'll be very open and transparent about how that's not good. I think that the principles go both ways.
Right.
I keep using examples with adults and kids because it's the same. It's the same principle. I call it parenting principles. These are people principles. All of them. That's the thing. It's exactly the same.
Shall we move on to the next principle?
Yeah, sure.
Be persuadable.
Yep.
What do you mean?
Well, this gets to the same idea we were discussing earlier about how the world is uncertain and about how there's so many things we don't know. Like last night we were talking to Isla about her love of Harry Potter, right? And she's spent a lot of time like making these amazing wands and listening to these books, and she's just got so much going on in her head that's really hard for me or anybody else to understand because she's an individual and she's so different, and the kinds of things that bring her joy and the path that she'll follow to create some of these amazing ideas is so different. And so acknowledging how much we don't know as parents about anybody, not just our own kids, but especially our own kids, because our job is to help parent them, right? If we accept how much we don't know, then that helps us to become more persuadable. Logically, we should be persuadable because logically, if you follow that, we should accept that we have a lot to learn ourselves.
Right. You're also setting up an example for them to be persuadable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I'm asking them questions a lot about how I can do better as a parent, which I do a lot, and as a husband too, or colleague or whatever, it's like if you ask that question a lot, kids will start asking it back. Right? It's showing them through actions and words that I'm persuadable, and that helps them to take on responsibility as kids, to help manage up to me as a parent, and say, well, here, Daddy, if you did this, it would really help me to do better, right? And then I'll good point, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and that way, guess what? You and I, we don't have to know everything. We just have to know that we have to listen and keep that communication open, and then they can help us find the blind spots. If we're causing pain points and they know that we're persuadable, then they will tell us. And then it's our job to actually listen and try to understand it. It doesn't mean that we have to do whatever they say. It means that we need to show that we're open.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember kids did a presentation on why we should have a dog.
We want a dog. And then they had like this whole PowerPoint. That was like 5 years ago they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kept going.
Mm-hmm.
They really kept at it.
Mm-hmm.
They put on a 4-year campaign to get a dog. And then we eventually got a dog. Usually it doesn't take that long. That would be the longest concerted campaign that Sume and I have ever done. Of course, getting a dog's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did that because they knew that we would listen. Yeah. If parents don't seem like they're interested in hearing what their kids have to say, or they walk around acting like they have all the answers, then why on earth would children actually tell them what they think?
I saw a lot of time parents may not have the time, energy.
I don't buy that at all.
Oh,
I
that's
don't buy
how
that at
their
all.
parents
It's
parented
so much
them.
better. This is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, when was the last time that we had any kind of like, with these kids, like they're just up there doing their thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're just up there creating, and it's wonderful. The kind of relationship that you can have with kids if you do these principles is so much better than anything that I remember growing up around or seeing with when I was a kid, with the parents, with the like, do your homework, like do your chores. It's just, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
it's relentless, and the kids, they don't like it either.
Mm-hmm.
The parents, it's a
Yeah.
grind.
I think our kids are like my best friends, and
You're also our best
also
friend.
like sometimes my best advisors.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're fabulous. It's so great. They help do so many things. Well, I mean, Sume, of course, is leading teams, and
Mm-hmm.
but Isla's doing it too now, man. She's got a couple businesses, and she's got some local friends that are now part of her second franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all strategizing and sharing and being open and transparent and being persuadable and helping each other, and it's like we're like little mentor coaches for each other. And that
Also, besides all these amazing entrepreneurial endeavors, they are how they live their daily life, how they treat people, is really incredible.
they're exceedingly respectful and appreciative of other people
Each other.
and each other. They all the time. Like they don't nag at each other. They don't.
Well, sometimes, if there are cases, if they're like really tired or stressed out, there will be a little issue, but then they catch themselves very quickly.
Oh yeah.
And,
Well, that's everybody. You're
and
gonna make mistakes.
And
but
apologize, and then kind of mend their relationship as soon as possible.
yeah.
So they can always, have these amazing positive feelings toward each other.
Yeah. Well, so that's always gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But they and we should keep going
Yeah.
to the
So
because I want to get to that.
the fourth principle is positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
pretty straightforward, right?
Kind of. I think that mentally it's just so much harder to do this.
Sure.
Because, like, why is the news so negative?
Catch our attention.
So why do parents tend to only pay attention to their kids most when they're doing something bad?
We're wired to do so.
Yeah.
So we can keep them safe.
Yeah. It's like, and so this leads to that mental predisposition that's hardwired into our brains.
Yeah.
Is something that's very hard to untrain.
Right. Right.
And so, and it's the same with spouses. Kind of same thing with spouses. It's just humans.
Right.
We're just, we can love each other and appreciate each other, and yet, we've been married 16 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these wonderful things that we do for each other, And yet it's so much easier to focus on those things that are negative, right? Or to ignore it if it's not a problem.
Sure.
And that's not really all that helpful, because what Isla needed last night was a heck of a lot of encouragement about the things that she's been doing that were great. I mean, I look at that WEquil wand setup that she's got, right? That website that she made, and the way that she's collaborating with her friends and doing all that in her free time. That was like off schedule, like not in WEquil school time, right? And she's just doing these incredible things. And I really wanted to hammer home how proud I was and just impressed and just like cheering her on, you know? Like Daddy's got his little pom-poms. I'm just like, go Isla, go, go, you know, and that's not the natural way that I think our brains are wired. I think our brains are wired to, as soon as our kid makes some noise up in their room, they're like, hey, quiet! You know, like, it's more like that, you know?
Right.
And kids, years of that, just years of that compounding over time, of kids basically only getting attention from parents that are ignoring them until they do something that's wrong. And then when kids become teens or whatever, they're wondering why their kids don't want to tell them about their day. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's about positive encouragement. The world lacks so much positive encouragement right now. I think 95% of the time, 95% of our thoughts are about ourselves. People are very selfish generally. And so recognizing that, trying to overcome that, especially with our own kids, so that we can try to put the focus on them and catch them while they're good. Catch them while they're doing good. And make them feel good because they deserve it. That is so much more powerful, in part because it's so rare. It's so rare.
So the last principle is we do what we want. That's how you phrased it.
We do what we want.
But what you really meant is that we want to persuade our kids they want to do what we want for them.
Close.
No? Close?
Well, we don't necessarily know what they should want, but we think we have some ideas, right?
Sure.
We want them to apply themselves. We want them to eat healthy food and exercise and have good relationships, and we want them to explore new things, and like we have some basic principles that can help guide what we think they should do. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want. People are going to do what they want to do. So if you really want kids to do good things, you have to help them think through why they should want those good things. So saying, do your homework. It's like, no, I had a lot of discussions with Sume.
I remember you spent a lot of time explaining why they should do math.
Not just math, but like, some of these things were complicated too. Like, think about the homework thing. So I remember, especially during the pandemic, early on, before the kids decided that they wanted to leave school, my thought process around their homework was, well, you want to learn, but I care a lot more, me personally, I was like, I care a lot more about you learning something valuable than getting everything perfect so that you can get a perfect grade. Like, that's just never really been important to me. And I wasn't telling them what they had to do. I was telling them my thought process. And that was that transparency. It's like Sume got this one of the last things she did in school before she left was she got that picture of the world. And she was labeling the oceans and the countries and all that. And then one of the directions was, and then you have to like color everything in. And I told her, I don't see why you need to do that. Even if you get like a C instead of an A, to me, it didn't seem important to me, because what matters is that you're learning, and that's what I wanted her to want.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to want to learn.
Learn.
But I couldn't logically get to a point where it's like, I want you to want to get A's all the time. And to make this teacher think that you just do perfect work all the time.
But you do explain why getting A's can be very important.
Oh yeah, I talked to her about that too. I'm like, well, in life, oftentimes, with your job and other things, like you want to know how to do really high quality work, right? It's really critically important that you're able to do this, but you also have to be selective because she was launching WEquil School and she was teaching classes and she was helping kids build apps, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, that seems like it should be a priority over coloring this map.
Right.
And I was radically transparent with her about it.
That's a better use of your time.
Yeah.
So you're sharing how she can, get the most out of her life.
But I wasn't telling her what to do with her life. I was telling her what I thought, and I was helping her think it through. But I was very open with her about how I wasn't sure.
Right.
There's consequences to not getting perfect grades.
I think we need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
1 minute.
Well, this is really fun. Yeah. There's a lot more behind those principles, and we put some examples in the article. But I think a lot of it comes down to basically treating kids a lot more like you would, your best friend. Somebody that you really want to respect and appreciate and not talk down to, almost like they're just like this. They're like a little part of you. You want to treat you with respect and appreciation and help them and be honest and open and not think that you know everything about who they are or what they should do, but you want to be their coach. You want to be their mentor. You want to be there and help them feel good and navigate life.
You're on the same team.
You want to be on the same team. Get on the same team with your kids and be a good team player.
Right.
Show them that they want you on their team. If you can do that, then you don't have to memorize 5 principles, So, and I want to be on your team. We'll make a great team, honey.
That's great.
All right. Now,
All right.
now Sumei's not here. How do we turn it off?
End stream.
Okay.